This research prospectus is on the impact nutrition and exercise have on ADHD. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, impacts 8 to 10% of children worldwide. These symptoms include things like impulsivity, inattentiveness, forgetfulness, the inability to stay in one seat for any period of time, especially in the classroom. Problems that can occur with ADHD include educational struggles, interpersonal problems, disciplinary problems throughout one's lifetime. After reviewing some of the literature, the hypothesis for this prospectus is as aerobic exercise is increased and added sugar is decreased, the symptoms of ADHD will be reduced. As said before, looking in the literature, most of them focused on either exercise or nutrition individually. And so looking at those, some of the weaknesses within those, many of the surveys that were done by parents or teachers, leading to possible bias. Medication was not eliminated, and so that variable could very well have concluded to some of the results that were being documented. And reliability was something that came up in multiple reviews. They used very similar studies, but they were done differently, so the comparison was hard to decide if it was a repeatable study. For this prospectus, the methodology would be using students who are not on medication. This could be newly diagnosed, or those willing to get off of the medication for ADHD for the duration of the research. They would be pre-tested with impulsivity tests, things like the Stroop color word inference test, a continuous performance test, and or the circle tracing task, as well as some open-ended surveys on how the participants feel they do in school and other activities that need some amount of focus to them. The intervention would then be introduced to the participants. This would be eliminating added sugars and increasing their exercise daily increase it 30 minutes daily for 1 month. And at the end of each week, they would take a survey just to ensure that they had done this for the month. After that, there would be a retake of the same impulsivity tests and an analysis in the quantitative data that is created there. And we'll talk about which analysis would be done later, as well as an open-ended interview would be done to determine the feelings towards the study results. If the students felt that no change was really felt and that their attention really had no impact, the results might be hard to continue outside of the study. In order to cover the Belmont report, this prospectus focuses on the participants for their responses, not so much on parents and teachers and those not impacted by ADHD. It looks at just added sugars, not all sugars, so that things like fresh fruits can still be consumed and not change the child's nutrition. Exercise, as throughout many of the reviews, creates minimal harm to children as long as there's no doctor's restrictions on what kind of exercise can be done. Some of the benefits that come definitely can increase the academic performance, as well as an adaptation into adulthood, increase and make that a much smoother journey for them. If this proves to be statistically significant, this can carry into other children without ADHD, and also extends into impacting the adulthood and career choices that children make. To analyze this data, the repeated ANOVA between factors analysis would be used, using a medium effect size and 0.95 strength. The sample size would fall right around 158. This is slightly larger than most of the studies that have been done. However, there were some that used many more students than that. Implications of the finding would include things like helping children with ADHD in the classroom and also empower them to know that they can influence their diagnosis, that this diagnosis is not something that can only be fixed with medication, but that they have something that they can change in their life. This study is different because it maximizes how the child, the participant, feels, as well as focusing on their interactions with ADHD rather than those around them. It is a slightly longer um, test. It takes longer than just a week, which many of them fell into, and it also combines interventions, not just using one focus point, but rather the two of them with nutrition and exercise. The threats to this study would be losing the long-term impact. We're not following along through adulthood or any length of time, years, and so there would be little impact data collected on those impacts. There is still some self-documentation um, just to make sure that they stay on track, and so some bias could be had because there might not be truth throughout that month that they followed those expectations. Because it is a month long, there could be withdrawal from the study in that way, or we might have to decline to accept some of the data because of too much outside influence. And the other struggle for this is foods are not isolated. Um, Many times food interacts with other things, and so to isolate added sugars might be a struggle. These are some of the references. These are the references that were used for this presentation. Thank you.